Hey guys, this is Tom Dowse, and this is my story of doing the NoFap challenge. Now, I know there are a million of these kind of videos all across YouTube and reports all over the internet. And if you're watching this, you probably want to know what the NoFap challenge can do for you. And maybe you're looking to be more attractive to the opposite sex and to girls. Or you're looking to really fix and get a handle on your social anxiety or awkwardness, talking to people and being out and about. You're looking for more confidence in your life. And maybe you're looking for a greater sense of self-respect and self-worth and self-love and a capacity for discipline and delayed gratification. And just the feeling of fulfillment that comes from knowing you have the strength to embrace this kind of challenge and conquer all the emotions that come up from this. And overall, you just want a positive shift in your life. You want to have more of a winner's psychology, and you think that this challenge could be a pivotal step in the right direction. Well, I'm here to tell you that absolutely yes, you're right. You will, if you complete the NoFap challenge, experience some degree of success in any or all of these facets of your life. I'm shooting this video because I think the reason I decided to undertake the NoFap challenge was a little different. The angle which I came at it was a little bit more unique. And the reason I undertook this challenge was not for any of those reasons in particular. The primary reason I did it was for self-actualization. Well, it's a concept coined by Abraham Maslow, which is all about striving after your highest potential in life and really creating a life where you share your greatest gifts to the world. It's really a shift in the way you look at your life. It's stepping out of the stream of complacency and into the stream of growth. For me, I, at the time, really thought that NoFap could help me make that big step, that transition to a new space in my life, a new positive trajectory in my life. So how this video is going to work is I'm going to tell you about my story, all of my experiences, break it down, and then at the end I'll share some tips for you, and hopefully you'll be inspired to also embark on this challenge, and also the challenge of really living up to your full potential and creating an amazing life for yourself. So my story. So really this sort of goes back a little while ago, but basically for the past 2 years I've been dabbling more and more in personal development. I watched lots of videos on YouTube and read books, and I studied philosophy throughout university, although ironically that didn't help me at all to understand how to live the life I want to live. But I was at this crossroads in my life where I finished my degree and I went traveling to Europe. And I came back from Europe, and within 1 week I moved out and was working out how I was going to live my life, what I was going to do. I was trying to find my purpose, find my authentic sense of self and self-expression, and I kind of still am to this day, to be honest. But I felt very fresh and very nervous and unsure about myself. I did kind of feel like my libido was really low, and I felt unattractive and unconfident and really low in discipline and just anxious to prove something to myself. And that's when I decided that this would be a perfect challenge for me, a real dopamine reset, which would really help me get in touch with the more grindy aspects of life, that sense of struggle to obtain a victory. And I'd tried it actually 6 months before, and I lasted a full month before I completely broke down and had the biggest backlash episode ever. And so in about March of this year, I was living with my girlfriend, and I told her I was going to do this challenge. And she was a bit, I wouldn't say disappointed. She knew from several months that I was going through all this transformation. I don't think it caught her by so much of a surprise, but I have to really thank her for bearing with me and letting me do this. So I was actually sleeping in a double bed next to her, so I was around this feminine presence, but I said that that would only add to the challenge. So now that I've cleared out my sort of background, I will tell you about my story and what I experienced. For the first 1 to 2 weeks, there was really nothing to report. It wasn't too difficult, and at about the 10-day mark, I started to feel a surge, maybe for about a day, a surge of manliness. I can't really accurately put my finger on what it was, but just more of a masculine sense of energy. So that was good, but that didn't last long. It actually didn't last long at all, maybe a day or two at the most, and then it kind of faded back in the background. Now, as I said, my mind wasn't even really trying to focus on the NoFap challenge too much. I was doing a waking up early habit, I was meditating every day, I was holding a little notebook to write positive comments in, so I was trying to train my mind to think more positively and install that as a habit. I was doing self-esteem stems, I was journaling, I was reading books, and I was obsessing over finding purpose, this creative voice and who I was, so this identity. And as I mentioned, I was also starting a new job and figuring out how to live by myself. NoFap was kind of a part of all of this. Anyway, so I managed to get to about 3 to 4 weeks, and then something out of the blue happened that coincided with a flatline. And a flatline is this state that generally most people experience on this journey, where the dopamine levels in your brain somehow plummet. Almost, it's this recalibration that's happening, and it plummets below baseline of what it normally is as it tries to readjust. And it's also sort of like a punishment in your mind when you resist those cravings, and it just all of a sudden gets enraged and it blows up at you, and you experience all of these really, really intense negative emotions, from depressive like symptoms, I felt that, anguish, sadness, grief, anxiety, just this mental clutter, like I couldn't think straight and I had all these thoughts bombarding in. But interestingly enough, this actually coincided with a family crisis. So it was a really weird time for me. Like, I think there was a day where I started feeling really low, and then the family crisis happened. So I wasn't really sure, was this the flatline, or was this mainly the family crisis, or was this both? And it was becoming this sort of chaotic explosion of negative emotions throughout my psyche. And that was one of the hardest weeks of this year for me. Actually, it lasted up to 2 weeks. It felt like I wasn't myself at all for 2 weeks. And during that time, I had a lot of urges to break. I'd done a lot of research, and I'd read several reports about some people breaking after day 10, some people making it to day 300, some finding it hard, some finding it more easy. I didn't know what to expect, and so some part of me wasn't confident as much as there was an undercurrent of certainty that I wouldn't break. But nonetheless, I was tempted, and I basically gritted my teeth, and I don't even remember how I got through that time, but somehow the days bled together and I survived this real dip in the experience. Now I got to about the 4 to 6 week period, and this is when I sort of came up again. In this period, nothing much was happening. A lot was happening in my personal life and figuring things out. That was still going on quite intensely, but nothing really to report with the NoFap. I was really going through this kind of okay, average, to a little bit off, okay, low, a little bit off. In terms of my mood, just throughout this 2 week period, it was just sort of this, I never felt really good about my life, never felt really bad. As another little thing I thought would be interesting to do is I actually was putting an emoji in each calendar day on my phone just to track my overall mood, just to see whether I'm actually improving in how I feel about my life and myself. So if you can see that there, I don't know if you can see that, but basically all of these were little smileys on how I was feeling, and NF 17, 18, 25, 32, all of that standing for NoFap in the day I was on, and just tracking my mood. When I was preparing this video, I looked up and I really did see these, most of the emoji I used was that one with the flat mouth, just nothing worth reporting on. At this point in my life, I actually started going out to some events. I wanted to network with some people, and I went to a personal development event. It was hosted by a woman running a business, this really cool person. I felt very inspired by. She was living a really interesting, cool life. I actually ended up speaking with her and deciding I'm signing up for coaching with her, just to get this mentorship and this sense of positive momentum on my side. So I started studying that program about a month into the NoFap, and into the 6 to 8 week mark, I was sort of having some breakthrough insights by following all these exercises and talking to her and sort of being in this, submerged in this new community of like-minded people. At that point, something happened with girls, and it was remarkable. I remember I wasn't even thinking about girls. I mean, I've been dating a girl for 4 years, and I really hadn't been thinking about girls in any particular way for that long, because it's just been so normal for me just to have a girlfriend. And I was waiting outside my work at a coffee shop. So I was on my break and I sort of ordered a coffee, and I noticed when I looked at the girl, she looked at me and sort of gave me this look like that, and sort of her eyes sort of popped a little bit, like she was like sort of saying like, who's that? I'm intrigued. And I'd done nothing. I was standing right there and had done nothing to warrant it. I hadn't been standing there sort of or anything like that, and it just happened, and I felt this electricity course through my body, like this masculine feminine polarity sort of spark through the atmosphere. And that was something I forgot existed. So that was a really neat feeling, and it was just this surge of unexpected confidence that sort of started compounding with all of the other positive realizations I was having at that time. And then about a week after that, I was studying at a library and doing some work, and I was sitting opposite this girl, and she was this sort of attractive girl with dark hair, and she started looking at me, and we started sort of eyeing each other off. Now, of course, in saying that, I would never cheat on my girlfriend. I was more intrigued, thinking, is this working? Is this just me? Would this normally happen? I'm sort of looking at her and she's looking at me, and then this like tension's building up. And then I felt right then and there, I could have done anything. I could have put my foot under the table and started stroking up her leg. I could have gone up there and asked her out. She was almost giving me this look in her eyes of like, do it. I want you to do it. It was just this tension, and it was there. It was so clear, and of course nothing happened. I ended up packing up my belongings and getting on with my day somewhere else. But that was really interesting. It was just this magnetic feeling, and I had this sensation of like, oh wow, if someone was single doing this, that would be a pivotal moment. And if you had the additional boost of courage there, you could have acted on that, asked that girl out, and who knows what could have happened. So that was just these two prominent experiences with girls that really took me by surprise. Of course, you'll get people saying it's all placebo, it's in your head, it's a fluke, it's a coincidence. That may be. I'm not to know, I'm just telling you what's happened. And I'm also telling you that I didn't feel the way I did towards women before I was in this sort of charged up state before NoFap. It never had this ability to charge up over 2 months. Charge up, build up, build up. So even if that was happening with girls, I just wouldn't have been as interested in it. And those moments would have just ended a lot quicker or not happened at all. At about week 11, I just felt really good about myself for that week. I felt like there was this greater reserve of dopamine running around in my head. I can't even describe it, but I felt my mood was elevated constantly. And I didn't feel like my life was complete by any means. I didn't kind of feel like I've done it, now I've done it, I'm so proud. I actually, funnily enough, was already thinking about, alright, what's the next challenge? What's the next challenge? It was almost like NoFap was such a big thing for me. Then by week 11, I was already thinking, well, how else can I like actualize more of my potential? How can I translate this into other more tangible, positive results in my life? So it was interesting how I was so ready to almost move on once I felt it was in the bag and I had this. But I had this insane moment one day, and I don't really know what was happening. I just remember I was heading home on the bus from work. I was listening to some music, and I had this blissful connection to my higher self, where I just felt it was the opposite of that flatline, terrible inner turmoil. It was this elevated level of consciousness and it felt expansive, and it felt sure and grounded, and it came out of me, it came out of my chest and through my mind, and it just felt this bliss and this sense of completion. And it really, really felt like what Abraham Maslow, funnily enough, also described as a peak experience. These rare experiences that you get on the journey of growth that sort of awaken a part of you that you didn't even know was living inside of you. And it's sort of like the universe paying you back for doing this effort and taking this risk and going through this emotional struggle of your own volition. It sort of is this paycheck day where you get this paycheck and it's just an overwhelming, expansive feeling. I don't know if I wasn't doing all these other positive things and all this other inner growth, whether that would happen on NoFap solely. Maybe it could. But that was without a doubt the climax of this journey. And then shortly after that, I hit about day 90. And I actually forgot to mention that when I was on day 30, my girlfriend sort of was intrigued, as were some of my other friends. I was sort of telling them about it and they were sort of interested. But my girlfriend actually decided at day 30 that she wanted to do it and last for 60 days herself. Just, she thought, may as well. And some girls have actually been posting on YouTube and stuff showing that there are lots of benefits for females as well, which I find so amazing too. So she was like, oh, I'll be a pioneer, I'll do this with you. But the problem was, I hit day 90, and between about day 80 and 90, my girlfriend and I became almost magnetized to each other. Our energy reached levels it did when we were in our honeymoon period after the first two or 3 months of dating. It was like reliving that. We were exploring each other and everything felt new and it felt amazing. And it was risky because there were times where I've kind of got carried away and I could have ruined the whole challenge there and then, but looking back it was kind of a laugh. But then we hit day 90 and I sort of said to my girlfriend, well, do you want to go to day 90 yourself? So my day 120. We talked about it for a while and she was on the fence, and I ultimately was in agreement when she said I think I should push out and do the whole challenge for me. So I said, alright, well I'll go to day 120 and see you out to day 90. I thought I'll do another 30 days, then I can say I did day 120 and wow, what an achievement that would be over day 100. Didn't happen. I lasted to day 98, in short. I don't know what happened, got carried away, and I just said, I don't care anymore. My girlfriend, she lasted on to day 90 herself, but that day was my end, day 98. And that closed off this chapter of NoFap. The question is, did I relapse and watch porn? And the honest answer is yes, I did. About 6 months afterwards, by accident, was watching a video, and on the side one of those ads popped up with just a full-on pornographic image, and I sort of saw it and went, yeah, it's time. And yeah, so I broke, but have since pulled it back, and now I really firmly understood in my mind that for me personally, porn is not a healthy option, and I feel more stable and grounded in that decision for life. And masturbating, it'll probably happen. But right now I just feel in control, which is a great thing. If you love the sound of this, what are my tips for you undertaking your NoFap journey? Well, these tips I actually didn't even realize I was using at the time. And now when I look back and analyze it, it's more clear. But one of the key things for me was vision. And I don't even mean a concrete vision, but just this general sense that you know that life can be remarkable and that something special is within you. Everyone has this something special, a special gift is within you, and giving that to the world is going to change everything for your life. Just having that as your motivating force can really strengthen your will to follow through. And without that kind of vision, I don't think I would have been able to sustain the challenge. I think I would have broken the streak like I did in the first 2 times. My second tip would be start taking an interest in personal development, and just this idea that you can improve yourself, just like someone going to the gym lifts weights tears their muscle and builds it up to be stronger. Your mind and your psyche, through personal development resources like books, coaches, exercises, they tear down and rebuild and reshape and strengthen your mind and your character. Buying into this idea that lifelong personal development is a key decision for you. NoFap can be one of the first positive habits and transformations that you embark on, but it's only one of many. Have that idea that there's more after NoFap. There's more changes to be made. There's more and more growth and positive results for you to experience in your life. Thirdly, if you're in a really difficult place in your life right now and you really are addicted to porn and experiencing lots of negative symptoms, and you have emotional issues and confidence issues and all of the things I described, well, firstly, I really do feel for you. And you might be thinking, what does this guy know about any of this? And I think actually how you may be feeling was very true about how I used to feel about myself. And I have worked a bit on myself, but I remember how I used to feel when I was crippled by various things like that. And I'm still working on myself a lot to, really overcome these issues. But what I wish someone told me is that the suffering that I was in was the best place to be at that time, because ultimately it becomes the catalyst for new positive growth. Because the suffering and being in this state, you one day click in your mind and realize that it's actually more painful than changing and growing and embarking on a challenge and a journey like a NoFap challenge. So eventually that suffering becomes your fuel that sparks new life within you. So keep the faith, keep hope in yourself. Alright guys, well, if you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe. Ultimately, you're helping me to express myself, and I'm so passionate about these ideas, and I really want to help you and other people, as well as myself, grow into more loving people who can share their gifts and experience more fulfilling lives. So that's why I'm doing this, and if you like the sound of that, I'd appreciate any support you can give me. Alrighty guys, thank you.